Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars by Daniel Pinkwater. Chapters 19 and 20. Chapter 19. Samuel Klugarsh unlocked the door of his bookstore. He seemed to be really excited. "I've got a secret room in the back where I keep all my really sophisticated instruments," he said. We walked past all the black boxes with wires and tubes and dials and switches, past the shelves of books on mystical subjects, to a locked door at the far end of the shop. Samuel Klugarsh unlocked the door, and we went into a small room. There was not much furniture in the room, a table and 2 or 3 folding chairs. There was something large covered with a sheet. "I'll soon know for certain whether you're in State 26, Samuel Klugarsh said. He whisked the sheet off of what turned out to be the largest machine of all. It was painted in all bright colors, mainly red. It sort of resembled a big refrigerator with a thing like a barber pole coming out the top of it. Written across the front of the refrigerator part of the machine was "Test Your Brain Power," in bright yellow letters about 6 inches high. The barber pole had a clear glass tube running up the outside. At the bottom, it said "Mental Midget." A little further up, it said "Sorta Stupid." A few inches higher, it said "Just About Normal." Above that, it said "Smarty Pants." Then it said "Professor," then "Wizard," then "Genius," then "Out of This World." Coming out of the front of the machine was a pair of heavy wires that were attached to something that looked like a stainless steel bowl that my father made salads in. The bowl had tubes and coils of wire coming out of the top. The whole thing had been sprayed with gold paint. "This is the most advanced machine to test brain power waves known to man," Samuel Klugarsh said. "It will take just a few minutes to warm up." Samuel Klugarsh threw a big switch. The machine hummed. "This looks like one of those gadgets you see in carnivals," Alan Mendelsohn said. "I know," Samuel Klugarsh said. "Isn't that incredible? The world's greatest expert on brain waves was a Tibetan Lama and neurosurgeon, and when I met him, he was operating an attraction in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He had designed and built this machine. I bought it from him and had it brought here. Out of This World corresponds to State 26. When I put the thought collector helmet on your heads, just do your mind control routine. A colored liquid will rise up that glass tube. If it gets as high as Out of This World, you will be the first humans to produce enough omega waves to be in State 26. There was one person who did it while the machine was in Atlantic City, but he turned out to be a proven extraterrestrial." "Can't you produce enough omega waves to be in State 26? I asked Samuel Klugarsh. "Sadly, I cannot," Samuel Klugarsh said. "You see, when I was in the military defending our country, I sustained a serious injury in the line of duty. As a result, I have a silver plate in my skull, which creates an electromagnetic anomaly that prevents my participating in omega wave production. I'd appreciate it if this was kept confidential." We promised we would never tell. Samuel Klugarsh said that the brainwave machine had warmed up enough, and would I be the first to be tested. I let him put the thought collector helmet on my head. He told me to go into State 26. I did. The brainwave machine made a whistling sound, and a column of red liquid rose in the tube past Mental Midget, Sorta Stupid, Just About Normal, Smarty Pants, past Professor, Wizard, and Genius. It stopped just short of Out of This World and sort of bobbed up and down. "Fantastic!" Samuel Klugar said. And do you mean to tell me that you got to be able to do this just by reading my mind control course and practicing with the Omega meter? We told him that we had. Oh, let's try the helmet on the other gentleman, Samuel Klugar said. He put the helmet onto Alan Mendelsohn's head, and the red liquid shot all the way to the top of the tube, even quicker than it had when I had been tested. Whew, excuse me, Samuel Klugar said. I'm a little overwhelmed. You see, this is the greatest moment in the mental history of man. I need to sit down for a minute. Samuel Klugar staggered over to one of the folding chairs and slumped down into it, looking sort of sick. He sat there for a while, shaking his head slowly from side to side. Finally he spoke. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for making my life worthwhile. You see, I never knew if I was on the right track until now. Now I know Klugar's mind control not only works, but is the ultimate development in the history of progress. This is a great moment, but I don't want to forget that you are my clients and that I am here to serve you. Now, what was it that you wanted to talk to me about? We couldn't tell Samuel Klugar that we thought mind control was boring. Not after his great excitement. Not after finding out how important it was to him that we could reach State 26. We couldn't tell him that we wanted our money back. Samuel Klugar was looking at us with this strange expression. It was a little like the way Melvin looks at grandfather. Sort of like he expected us to scratch behind his ears or give him a biscuit. He was waiting to hear what it was that we wanted to talk to him about. Alan Mendelsohn spoke. We wanted to know if we could trade in our mind control course and Omega meter for a more advanced course. That was quick thinking. There was no telling if the advanced course would be any better, but at least the boring mind control book and the Omega meter would be off our hands. Oh, of course you do, Samuel Klugar said. I must have neglected to tell you about Klugar's trade-in policy. You can trade in any course or book you are dissatisfied with, or in your case have gone completely beyond, for 73% of its current sale price, less a small handling charge for any selected Klugar's product or publication. Of course, you want to trade in the Omega meter. You gentlemen are ready for highly advanced work. Maybe we could sort of look around the store and pick out some books worth 73% of our $24 minus a small handling charge, Alan Mendelsohn said. Oh, no, Samuel Klugar said. Those books are not for talented people like you. Those books are for the... Please pardon the expression. Poor schnooks who go through life hoping that something will happen to them, like being able to achieve State 26 and make people take off their hats and rub their bellies at their command. I couldn't imagine anyone going through life hoping to be able to make people take off their hats and rub their bellies. For people of real psychic prowess like yourselves, only the best, only Samuel Klugar's publications and training devices are good enough. I will advise you. Now, what are your interests? Interstellar travel? Forecasting the future? Influencing inanimate objects? Reading the thoughts of others? Communing with lost civilizations? Mu, Atlantis, Lemuria? That rang a bell. Alan Mendelsohn and I both thought of Uncle Boris's magic gem from the Lost Continent. What do you have in the way of lost continents? Alan Mendelsohn asked. Lost continents, certainly, Samuel Klugar said. What you are asking for is the Klugar Mind Control Associates Advanced Course in Hyperstellar Archaeology. This will equip you to find the everyday clues to the existence of civilizations no longer with us. Samuel Klugarsh rummaged around in the back of a drawer in a file cabinet. He came out with a thick, dusty-looking stack of papers. It was held together with 3 of those brass fasteners that look like a nail, except they're flat. You push them through the papers you want to fasten together, and then the flat part spreads out into 2 flat parts, and you fold them back, and you've got your papers fastened. Excuse me, there's a misprint, Samuel Klugarsh said, and he wrote something on the cover of the sheaf of papers. Then he handed it to us. It had said Basic Lessons in Hyperstellar Archaeology, but Samuel Klugarsh had crossed out the word basic and written the word advanced above it. So the cover now read Advanced Lessons in Hyperstellar Archaeology. Well, this normally costs $175, Samuel Klugarsh said. But since you are my favorite students, and including your mind control course as a trade-in, by the way, I'm allowing you the full price, and we'll forget about the handling charge, this will only come to $18.50, and that's less than it cost me to produce. Fair enough? Chapter 20. Mr. Klugarsh, exactly what is hyperstellar archaeology? Alan Mendelsohn asked. You know what archaeology is, don't you? Samuel Klugarsh asked him. Sure, Alan Mendelsohn said. Archaeology is the scientific study of the life and culture of ancient peoples through the excavation of ancient cities, relics, artifacts, etc. Alan Mendelsohn was great at definitions because of all his word power books. Well, that's almost right, Samuel Klugarsh said. Close enough for purposes of our discussion. Alan Mendelsohn looked bugged. Now, Samuel Klugarsh said, hyperstellar archaeology differs from ordinary archaeology in 2 ways. Firstly, it concerns itself with the study of lost civilizations, such as Atlantis, Mu, or Lemuria, and the lesser-known lost civilizations such as Waka Waka, Nafsulia, and Shabom. The second way in which hyperstellar archaeology differs from the regular kind is that instead of digging in the ground to find out about the ordinary life of these lost cultures, we look for clues to their existence in our everyday culture of the present. You see, in times past, beings from other planets came to Earth many times in order to study the activities of Earth life forms. Occasionally, extraterrestrials took human form in order to study human activity without making anybody self-conscious. In some cases, the scholars from other planets left records which hyperstellar archaeology decodes. I'll give you an easy example. Nafsu Cola, which is about the 3rd most popular soda pop in these parts, is made from an ancient formula salvaged from the lost city of Nafsulia. Walter C. Gull, the multimillionaire who developed Nafsu Cola, was a student of hyperstellar archaeology. He found the formula disguised in a coded document which appeared to be a list of outdated post office regulations. As a hyperstellar archaeologist, Gull instantly recognized the document as an encoding of Nafsulian material. He decoded it, decided to mix up a batch of the stuff, began to sell it, and the rest is history. I had never tasted Nafsu Cola, although I knew that it existed. Every now and then you run across it in some out-of-the-way candy store, the sort of place that sells Moxie and jelly beans by the scoop. I had no idea that it was the 3rd most popular soft drink. Samuel Klugarsh was talking. Along with the course, I will include a copy of Yojimbo's Japanese-English Dictionary, vital for any student of hyperstellar archaeology, and 2 magic gems from the lost culture of Waka Waka. He dug into the file cabinet and came up with 2 stones. They looked a lot like Uncle Boris's magic gem that had been the idol's eye. "Those stones," I said, "they don't vibrate or light up or anything, do they?" "Oh, why, bless your heart, boy, of course they do," Samuel Klugarsh said. "Of course, we don't have the sophisticated energy sources they had in ancient Waka Waka, so I've had these converted. You just unscrew them in the middle, like this, and drop in a 1.3 volt HC-type hearing aid battery. In good old Waka Waka, all you had to do was expose the magic gem to the great laser energy source in the middle of Waka Waka City, and they'd have power for a year. But you'll find out more about that when you study your course. Shall I wrap it up? Oh, by the way, you get a specially fitted red manila folder that holds the Hyperstellar Archaeology course, the Magic Gems, and Yojimbo's Japanese English Dictionary, vital to the study of HA. What do you say? I knew this wasn't a good deal. Alan Mendelsohn knew this wasn't a good deal. Neither one of us could ever say why, but we gave Samuel Klugarsh our $18.50 and our Omega meter and our Klugarsh mind control course. Samuel Klugarsh put the HA course, the Japanese English Dictionary, and the 2 magic gems into a perfectly ordinary red manila folder, the kind with the red ribbon stapled to it that ties around. We hadn't even bothered to ask why the Japanese English Dictionary. We figured it would all become more or less clear as time went by. Another thing that Alan Mendelsohn and I were feeling, we were not finished with Samuel Klugarsh. We would never be finished with Samuel Klugarsh. As we left the store, he called out after us, "Don't forget, when you're through with that course, you can trade it in. It's worth $13.50 towards your next purchase, and you can keep the dictionary and the magic gems." There were a lot of pages in the Hyperstellar Archaeology course, and unlike the mind control course, they were filled with tiny, smudgy, mimeographed typing. Alan Mendelsohn and I spent the whole weekend either at his house or mine reading the HA course. We'd take turns reading to each other, or just take turns reading a chapter silently while the other guy slept, or had something to eat, or played with the dog. By Sunday night, we had gotten most of the thing read, but not necessarily understood. There were lots of confusing things in the course. A thing we did a lot of while we were reading the HA course was play with the magic gems. On close inspection, they seemed to be made of plastic rather than some kind of stone, but they were nice just the same. They buzzed and jumped and vibrated in our hands, and sometimes they would flicker or light up. The HA course didn't say anything about them, and we didn't have much of an idea what they were about. They were pretty, though. The other thing that didn't make sense for a while was Yojimbo's Japanese English Dictionary. We couldn't figure out what that had to do with hyperstellar archaeology for the longest time. We did, though, when we were almost to the end of the course, but that came later. The course, which was really just a book, told how there were clues to the existence of ancient civilization all around us. It gave a lot of examples. It said that certain words in modern languages are really Lemurian or Atlantean words. It said that Haya and Dune were the 2 most important Nafsulian gods. And when people in America and Australia say, "How are you doing?" they are actually repeating the ancient Nafsulian greeting, Hayadun. The course also said that the native populations of North America and Australia both came from Nafsulia. It said that the potato was not a native crop to this planet, and that the people of Waka Waka had introduced it when they migrated to Earth from their native planet of Hakuhola. The course was full of bits of information like that, but it didn't prove any of them. Alan Mendelsohn discussed whether anything in the course was true. It could have been made up. The whole thing was written by a Professor Keith Brian Sverdlov of Miskatonic University. He could have been lying. I don't see where any of this is scientific, Alan Mendelsohn said. Scientific means the theories in this book should be supported by experiments or tests that we can duplicate ourselves and see if they work. This book just says that kosher salami originally came from the planet Pluto with the people who colonized the ancient lost city of Shabom. It doesn't say why we should think so, or even give us any idea whether Shabom existed. As far as I can tell, the whole thing could be a fake. Of course, we hadn't finished reading the course. It was before Sunday evening that we had these doubts. Still, we kept pushing on. We kept reading the thing, even though it seemed to be one wild claim after another. For example, the book said that chickens were actually a degenerate form of an animal much smarter than humans that had existed in Mu. It said that there are occasionally throwback genius chickens about as intelligent as Einstein. Then it would go on to something else equally weird, like saying that packaged chocolate pudding would turn into a deadly explosive if one easily obtainable ingredient were added. Naturally, it didn't say what the easily obtainable ingredient was, and there was no cases of genius chickens as smart as Einstein listed, so someone could go and look them up. It was a frustrating book. I would have quit plowing through the hard-to-read mimeograph-type pages if Alan Mendelsohn had said something, and I think if I had said something, he would have quit. But it had become one of those things that you finish because you have to finish it, because the other guy is going to finish it. It was a self-boring contest between Mendelsohn and me. So ends chapter 20, Alan Mendelsohn, the boy from Mars.